Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a gorgeous sunny Friday morning here in Goderich with me in the lair. Today we are here to talk about energy shifts. And it's funny because, as New Agers have kind of our lingo, our chakras, our vibes, all of that stuff. And that's a big one. We hear about that a lot, personal shifts and collective shifts. And someone asked me straight up, like, what does that mean? What is the difference between that and change? So that's what we're going to touch on here for a minute. We are shapeshifters, really. We come into the world. We have a mainframe of a brain that takes in and sorts data. We have a memory, quantum memory. We're pretty miraculous creatures. There's no doubt about it. And we come here for a little bit of time, like buying a car. You've got this vehicle for a certain period of time. We know that our human bodies go through, our life is laid out in chapters. There's no doubt about it. We age, our priorities change. So what I'm saying is that everything changes all the time. Change is something that can happen around us in an instant. Change is something that can happen within us in an instant. We can have a very sudden paradigm shift, or we can learn some news that changes how we feel about something. So change is really this dynamic of life that's going on around us. I mean, on a quantum level, like nothing is ever still. Not the rock sitting beside you. Nothing is ever still. So change is this movement of the physical universe. And these changes create shifts in us as human beings. So we haven't ever heard of anyone having a paradigm change. People say that they have a paradigm shift. So a shift is, I believe, at any point in our life when we have had a sudden experience, when we have had something culminating over a period of time that we're learning from, and we move to a point where we shift our truth about something, or we move into an expanded concept of something. So a shift is kind of when something kicks in or becomes real or becomes the norm or moves into being permanent. So imagine this analogy for a minute. When we talk about energy, another actually not New Age term, but when we talk about energy in the spiritual sense, what that often just means is how we experience life on Earth, how we're experiencing this physical world. And our energy can be high and low in a physical way, and high and low in a spiritual and an etheric way. So imagine that each of us is basically like an individual, an internal kind of a symphony. We have these pockets, of course, where we store information, again, physically and etherically. And these all have like a frequency. There's like a dial, and they all have kind of a station. Energy that they're taking in from the external world, processing, releasing, and then the communication inside of these chakras, or kind of quantum kind of vaults that we have there. So we are all this kind of basic station. Now think of radio stations. Some people are like soft and easy hits from yesterday and today. Some people are death metal. Some people might be like a meditation station. We all have an imprint here that's changeable, but we're all putting out information. So here's what a shift is. Imagine now, take this musical analogy, and you have a musical score. Just imagine all these little dots in it, and that's people. And let's say someone there has a limiting thought or belief. A limiting thought or belief, because each of these individuals are on frequencies. Person vibrating on a higher level often has more of a sense of balance in life. They might be more self-aware, and they might do more personal work. They might take better physical care of themselves. But this isn't about comparing. Some people are raised in circumstances where they're given horrible negative programming about themselves and the world around them. Like there's never enough, or you're never good enough, or, this is some pretty heavy stuff. And when we say heavy, that's what I mean. So sometimes a person might be what we call, this is where the word toxic comes in. Because when somebody's vibrating very low and angry about all the things that happened yesterday and throughout their lives, or stuck in cycles or gray areas, or dealing with very real mental illness, any of that going on keeps the vibrations low. So we have this symphony, and a shift is when someone existing on any particular kind of a biofrequency starts to think or aim outside of their box. They start to think higher. They start to think, maybe I could be an organized person, or maybe there is always enough, or maybe there is a plan, or maybe not everything for a reason, but maybe I can find a reason or a way for growing from this. So what we have is imagine now we all have these little antennas where we're kind of aiming into that frequency that's above, aiming outside of that current perspective of reality, and understanding that there are other realities that might exist. So we start popping that antenna up there and having these thoughts. And the shift comes when we've moved that into critical mass, when we're like starting to get organized, and that just becomes a natural facet of who we are. We've moved through a shift. That's what we've done. We've shifted, and that can come from change. Now again, change can move internally and create to the external world, and that creates shifts in both. Change can happen to us and can create profound paradigm and energy shifts internally. So it's funny, they aren't the same thing, but they do coexist kind of in a yin and yang kind of a way. So that is, so something to know about that is that when we are going through a personal shift, what's happening is that outdated, when I say outdated paradigms, old beliefs, programs, patterns, what does that look like? Just imagine that it looks like actual structures that you've built in your left brain. Imagine your paradigms going down, your beliefs going down, attitudes like layers of kind of a Tetris game. And we have all of these deep kind of embedded, even unconscious layers that might be stopping us from moving forward in our life. So that's what's going to happen. They're going to be nudged to the surface. And so it can feel very uncomfortable. Awakening, ascension, spiritual ascension, these things that we link to what we call these personal energy shifts, they cause us to go through some, our healthy, loving ego causes it to go through some growth, causes us to look around at the life we've built and see if we're resonating with it still. And that is an uncomfortable place to be. I want to make note about something, and I've said this in many readings and in many discussions and talks, is that I believe fully, obviously, in the reality of clinical depression, anxiety, and mood disorders, all of those things. That stuff is very real. And that's where I'm very vocal in our New Age practice, or our practices of energy, is that yes, sometimes that feeling of depression or confusion can be from spiritual or soul growth, or a part of us is reevaluating things in our life. But sometimes we can have a very real medical condition that we have to consider. Always be responsible for yourself and others, and look at both possibilities and look at what needs to be done in all levels. So that is a very important thing. And being someone who is known for perceiving basically invisible people, I have put my study into the abnormal psychology just for personal understanding. I'm by no means a psychologist, but I want you to know that if you're going through an energy shifts, and you probably are right now, let's swing it on back before we close to the global pandemic thing. Talk about shifts. Talk about shifts in what we're putting on our grocery list, and how it is that we're doing things and feeling about people, emotions. Wow, there's a lot of that going on. This is why you keep hearing that term. And that's what this is. So imagine all those little shifts of, wow, I'm actually fine without that in my life. Or, wow, I think when this is over, I want to spend a lot more time with my son or daughter or brother or sister. Yeah, there's a lot of shifts going on right now. So let yourself feel all of your human emotions, cry when you need to, mourn the past, all of those things that come up that we might judge as, I'm just feeling negative or something must be wrong. First, have a look and see if you're not just releasing some emotion around things and doing a little bit of grieving of the past as we're all moving forward into a little bit of a new existence. And our next talk, when I have time, will be about collective shifts. How when this happens to lots of individuals, what does that mean kind of on a bigger picture? So thank you. Have a beautiful, beautiful Friday. I'll talk to you again very soon. And again, I hope you are all doing well and enjoying that sunshine. See you later.